Night Politics on StarFM, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene.
Good evening, it's a Monday and it's time for Late Night Politics. How have you been? Today's edition is coming from Bulawayo, where I am attending the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair. But politics doesn't stop. We continue to give you what is happening on the political scene as it happens. And in the past week, we have seen that ZANU-PF held its primaries. They announced their primary candidates, and there will be elections on the 29th of this month. And some of the constituencies will have aspiring candidates, as many as 20. And in the MDC-T, led by Nelson Chamisa, they held rallies in Chipinge and Nyanga. But the big story of the week was the MDC-T Congress. This is the MDC-T led by President Thokozani Khupe, and she was retained as she was elevated to be the president of the MDC-T. We are still awaiting the outcome of the court cases, but as far as they are concerned, the Congress was on. A lot of noise has come out of that event. People are saying it's not constitutional and so forth, and some of the elected members are being said to have not been part of the MDC. So to help us in the program tonight, we have the elected MDC-T spokesperson, Linda Masarira. Welcome to Late Night Politics.
Thank you very much. How are you, viewers? How are you, listeners? I'm delighted to be here and to discuss some of the political dynamics that we're facing in Zimbabwe right now.
At the moment, Linda, we have the ZITF and you are in Bulawayo. Is this going to be your new home?
No, not at all. We just are finalizing on the operations of the party and the primary elections, which are going to be held soon, and a whole lot of other in-house things that we have to do for the party. I am still based in Harare, and the party will still have its headquarters in Harare.
When you say the headquarters, where will you be headquartered?
Those are some of the things that we are still planning. Just remember, we just had our extraordinary Congress on Saturday, and we are still waiting for the court case outcome tomorrow here in Bulawayo at the High Court.
Okay, but so far, what has been the reaction to the appointment that you got, and in fact about the whole Congress? Just in brief, I know we are going to talk a little bit more about it during the course of the program.
Okay, it is critically important to note that the MDC-T held an extraordinary Congress on Saturday where they had a closed session, which I was not part of, and the party adopted a constitutional amendment to allow a very limited number of special interest groups and individuals to be eligible for election or nomination to any position, subject to the clearance by the standing committee, and in any case notwithstanding any outstanding constitutional provisions on membership of the party. This was also necessitated by the need to have quality leadership leading the party. We have noted that since time immemorial, we have had people leading the party because of loyalties or how long they have been in the party, yet they are not bringing in actual substance to the party. So the rebranding of the MDC and the constitutional amendments that were adopted and the resolutions are clearly laid, we're actually clear that we need quality leadership. There is nothing wrong in borrowing from best practices like in ANC, where they also go out and take people from the people living with disability, where they also look at women's groups, labor unions, so that they ensure that they've got quality leadership that is responsive to the needs of the people in this country.
But the question which has arisen, Linda, is that it was not constitutionally, the Congress was not within lines of the constitution of the MDC-T. For example, the members, the delegates to the Congress, they should have been at least some of the provisions for calling a Congress. They should be members of the National Council, members of the National Executive of Women, members of the National Executive of Youth, and so forth.
Yes, when the Congress was called for, everyone knew that there was going to be a Congress, and some deliberately decided to snap it because they thought it would not go ahead. Because if we also want to look at the dynamics, when the National Council was held, the Secretary General of the party, Douglas Ngonzora, was not there. The spokesperson was not there. Madame Thokozani Khupe, the Vice President of the party, was not there. There were also a lot of critical people who were supposed to be there in the National Council, which actually called Nelson Chamisa the President of the breakaway MDC-T. So when a Congress is called, people have to come. And if they snap it, those who came will actually make a decision, because the Congress also speaks to the people who are part of the party and who follow the principles and the constitution of the party.
Yes, another question with regards to that is that who called for the Congress? Was it because I suppose within the Constitution it says the Secretary General must call for a Congress?
The same Constitution also states that when the leader of the party passes away, an extraordinary Congress should be held to elect the next leader of the party. So when there are frictions and factions and other people are trying to play ball to actually avert the Constitution and what it states, what has to be done has to be done. A Congress should be called and a new leader is elected. The National Council has no mandate whatsoever to elect a new president.
So do you foresee, because now because of the factions that are happening, do you feel that you have the legitimacy?
Madame Thokozani Khupe was the vice president of the MDC-T, who was duly elected at Congress in 2014. She is the legitimate candidate, and she went and was nominated on Saturday, and she is now the president of the MDC-T. For me, when we're still looking at the constitution of the MDC-T, she is the legitimate leader of the MDC-T.
Mm-hmm. So when the court case, what is it going to be deciding on? So that we have a look at what the constitutional, what the court case that is here in Bulawayo.
The court case is going to decide on who is the rightful constitutional leader of the party. And when it decides on who is the rightful constitutional legitimate leader of the party, it means that the one who is actually going to be determined to be the constitutional legitimate leader of the party is the one who used the party name and everything else.
And as far as people who are saying that by holding a Congress within without all the other delegates, where you say they snubbed it, it's like you have formed a new party. What do you say to that?
I don't see the notion of saying a new party was formed. What I see is a new leadership, a quality leadership that actually is inclusive and holistic, which has subscribed to Section 56 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which speaks clearly on the need to have gender equality, 50-50 gender representation, which is also in line with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, number 5, where they speak to 50-50 gender equality to empower women and to have women occupying governance spaces. We also look at the 40% representation of the youth in the standing committee. It's a first in any political party here in Zimbabwe, and we also have to embrace and accept leadership renewal, which is very critical in our quest to transform Zimbabwe. We have had the same faces in ZANU-PF since 1980. That is why we are in the mess that we are in right now as a country. We have had the same faces in the breakaway MDC-T led by Nelson Chamisa, which have not shown us any development in this country. Because when we are talking of being an opposition party, we're just not talking of having statements or just opposing for the sake of opposing. We also want to see the tangibles. We take an example of Julius Malema in South Africa. There are very few in the Parliament of South Africa, but they make things happen. What is the MDC-T that is led by Nelson Chamisa doing to say that we are seeing things happening? But we are a leadership that is driven by tangibles. We want to start doing things that will show people that we are actually capable leaders, which is critically important. Like right now, we are actually looking into the aspect of having creative hubs in almost every city in Harare to ensure that the young people who are lying idle, who are smoking who are smoking marijuana and drinking bronco, will actually have somewhere where they are putting in their ideas, whether to do with arts, creativeness, technological advancements. We want the young people to be taught coding and everything else, to start having applications which are applicable in Zimbabwe. Why should we be downloading applications from America when we've got very young and bright intellectual young children here in Zimbabwe? We want to empower those people. We are speaking to the tangibles, to social justice. Yes, we've got a high rate of unemployment, but let's plug in and start ensuring that we empower these young people to be somebodies, not to be just people who will be following at rallies and clapping hands and chanting slogans. We are moving beyond that. We want to empower young people. We want to empower people with disability. We want to empower women. We are an inclusive, holistic, rebranded MDC-T, which is looking into issues to do with labor justice and social justice. Yes.
Linda, we will come back at the end of the program to talk about the vision that has come out from Congress and the possible manifesto that you are looking at as far as approaching the elections are concerned. But just a reminder to our listeners, we are coming live from Bulawayo, and this is Late Night Politics, and we are discussing the recently held MDC-T Congress, which is led by President Thokozani Khupe, and what has come out of it, and what are the implications. And the program is coming from Bulawayo, as I reminded you, and I have in the discussion tonight, I have Linda Masarira. She was elevated, she was elected as the spokesperson of the party. She takes over from Obed Gutu, who was elevated to vice president. And I know that Linda, you are coming through during a time when there is heated controversies and so forth. I will come back to talk about the Congress, but just to get your thoughts, because this is a political program, how do you handle the fallout or the reactions from your detractors, maybe those who are left with Nelson Chamisa, and also trying to push forward an agenda or to face the elections? How are you handling it? Because I've seen on social media some of the criticism borders on misogyny, where they are more of insults than constructive criticism.
First and foremost, I am used to this. I think I've been facing my detractors almost on a daily basis for the past 3 years. And you are right when you talk about misogyny. And the other issue that we also have is patriarchal dominance in Zimbabwe, where the men still think that they should control everything here in Zimbabwe. But when I'm speaking to some of these issues that I'm talking about here, it's just not about gender, but it's for us to actually subscribe to the tenets of the Constitution. When our Constitution of Zimbabwe, which is the supreme law of this country, as enshrined in Section 2 of our Constitution, that the Constitution is supreme law. And when it speaks to 50-50 gender representation, why do men in this country think that women should not lead when it is a constitutional provision? And what is mind-boggling is the very same men are lawyers, but they do not want to subscribe to the Constitution. But we are saying we are the women in this country, and women carry the burden of all the problems that we have in this country. And some of these economic problems actually have got a heavy burden on women than men. But we are saying let's converge and meet on a level of ideas. Let's criticize each other on ideas and ideology, not on a personality. We won't be spending time bordering on attacking personalities as the MDC-T. We are going to be speaking to issues. Those who want to border on misogyny and calling us names, they can go ahead and do that. We are going to be speaking to issues and solutions and coming up with ideas that will grow this economy, that will ensure sustainable human development for every Zimbabwean, regardless of tribe, regardless of race, regardless of capability, whether they're able-bodied or is a person living with disability. We are saying we want all Zimbabweans to be united, to share a common national vision that will grow this country, that will restore the legacy of Zimbabwe as the breadbasket of Africa.
One of the other persons who got a post was Yvonne. You remember Yvonne? For our listeners who don't know Yvonne, she was recently released from jail. She had been jailed for the murder of a policeman in Glenview. And when she came out, the masses of the MDC-T were in jubilation. But the moment she said she's going to, a photo appeared when she arrived for the Congress in Bulawayo, and suddenly everything changes. How is Yvonne handling it? And do you think that it is fair that she was incarcerated for something to do with the party, but at the same time she has turned into a villain? How is she handling it?
One thing I've observed about Zimbabweans is they want to think for everyone else. But I'll go back to our Constitution. Section 58 allows everyone to have the freedom and the right of assembly and association. Yvonne is still in the MDC-T, but just because she chose a side which resonated with the things that she stands for, people want to call her names. She has every right to join an association or a party which has got the ideologies that she stands for. She stands for the women's struggle. She stands for labor rights. But do we see that in the other MDC-T? No, she didn't see that. She also wants to be accepted. She wants to be part of a loving family. At the end of the day, we cannot say everyone should follow this because everyone is following it. Let's follow principle. Let's follow values. And that is what Yvonne is basically saying. She even had an interview where she was saying, I am following Dr. Khupe on principle, on constitutionalism. We have to move away from politics of patronage or politics of loyalty. This is what brought us here where we are right now in Zimbabwe. The economic quagmire we are facing about the same people in ZANU-PF who are supporting President Robert Gabriel Mugabe because of patronage and loyalty, blind loyalty. So we don't want to keep on repeating the same negative, repetitive behavior day in and day out and expect things to change in this country. We have to look at the alternatives. Which is the best route to take? Do these people subscribe to these particular ideologies? That is what is critically important. And for me, I saw Yvonne doing that. She said, I know people are going to insult me, they're going to scoff at me, but I have to stand for what I believe in. And people have to respect her for that. She is standing for what she believes in. Because if we take those very same people who are criticizing Yvonne and ask them what they stand for, you'll find that they've got nothing that they stand for. They are just standing for a chete mantra. But we are not standing for a chete mantra because we have actually dissolved that one center of power mantra, and we are working as a team with Dr. Khupe. She's open to criticism, she's open to ideas, and we are working as a team. She is not dictating to the standing committee or to the party what to do, but we are working as a team, putting our ideas together that will move Zimbabwe forward.
But when Chamisa was elevated initially, to the position, you were one of the persons who supported it. And I know even Yvonne at some point supported the elevation of Chamisa. What has gone wrong in between? What went wrong in between such that even Yvonne, who was seen making slogans supporting Chamisa, and you even when one of the first tweets that you gave when Chamisa was elevated was to support him, but now we see that you have gone the other way.
You are right about what you're saying, and if we go back to that very same tweet, if you see the last part of it, I said, even though I do not subscribe to the way he got power, I was clear on that. And the day Nelson Chamisa recalled Khupe from Parliament, I tweeted again that now I am forced to listen to the voice of reason. That was a bad move. They still had a pending court case, and they were supposed to recall or fire each other after the court case. And for me, we can differ from opinion. And right now we are going to a stage where the electoral reforms are going to be debated in Parliament, and we have opposition recalling other MPs. How are they actually going to determine the vote is in their favor? Those are some of the things that I look at. That is this the time to be having those power wrangles, yet we want to look into electoral reforms? Politics is dynamic, politics evolve, and when a person does the wrong move, I should not blindly support them when I say that they continue doing blunders and indicating left and turning right. For me, I look at principle. Is he doing the right thing? For me, if he had not recalled Khupe from Parliament, and if he had continued engaging and trying to find a way of working with Dr. Khupe, I would still be supporting Nelson Chamisa right now. I even wrote on my Facebook another day where I was saying, did you as the MDC try all possible means of conflict resolution to iron out your differences? That was not done. That was not done, because at the end of the day, you cannot say you want to have a conflict resolution when you're coming with a position that I'm the president. Khupe was clear that let's go for Congress. And Nelson Chamisa kept on insisting that we are not going for Congress. The NC has finalized. Why was Nelson Chamisa refusing to go for Congress? The Congress would have resolved this issue. And Dr. Khupe is clear that even if I had lost at Congress, I was going to take the position that I had been given at Congress. So at the end of the day, the buck stopped with Chamisa. He stopped the buck. He didn't want to go for Congress. He didn't want to follow the Constitution. And when Khupe decided that, no, we are going to have this Congress by hook or crook, because that is what the Constitution says, people want to cry foul. At the end of the day, we should stop with this tribalism thing, looking at a person because she's a woman and everything else, and start looking at the merit, constitutionalism, and what really is supposed to be happening and what is supposed to be done. So at the end of the day, Dr. Khupe decided to follow the Constitution and what it stands for.
Did you at any point have a discussion over these issues with Nelson Chamisa?
We had been talking, we had been engaging. I've got a very personal relationship with Advocate Chamisa, and those are some of the issues that I was raising, and he kept on insisting that no, she doesn't want to engage. But at the end of the day, I still feel that they did not, exhaust all the channels that were there to have conflict resolution. And I even warned him about it last year, that if the succession issue is not dealt with ASAP, there's going to be a split in the party, and it is not going to be right, especially when we are going towards elections, because you have a divided opposition vote, which is not what we need right now. But at the end of the day, I think Dr. Khupe is still open for engagement, and if they want to talk, we can sit down and talk and see how to take the party forward.
In terms of talking, when there are court cases there, who should compromise first?
You know what, at the end of the day, to tell you the truth, if there are going to be any talks, I think there have to be a mediator from another country who is not taking sides. I think that is the only way talks can happen. But if we want to have talks, maybe that is another Zimbabwean who would have given 10,000 to put in his pockets. We won't be having any talks at the end of the day.
So you think that the people of Zimbabwe have actually failed the MDC-T, which was left by Dr. Morgan Richard Changira, in that no one tried to rescue, because we can have ZANU-PF winning there, but we also need a viable opposition party. Do you think that even the church people, the mediators, failed the MDC-T when in its moment of need?
You are very right. I think the church particularly failed the party, because sometimes when you find that people are failing to converge or are failing to have a win-win situation in conflict, I think the interested parties who actually look up to these people to be their leaders were supposed to come in with their voice and what they were expecting. So I really think that even civic society failed, because our civic society had already taken the side of who they wanted to lead, you see. And I think the biggest tragedy that we have in Zimbabwe is we have a following and a citizenry which does not even understand the national constitution.
Viable opposition party. Do you think that even the church people, the mediators, failed the MDC-T when in its moment of need?
You are very right. I think the church particularly failed the party, because sometimes when you find that people are failing to converge or are failing to have a win-win situation in conflict, I think the interested parties who actually look up to these people to be their leaders were supposed to come in with their voice and what they were expecting. So I really think that even civic society failed, because our civic society had already taken the side of who they wanted to lead, you see. So at the end of the day, I think we really have to start respecting our constitutions. And when I speak of respecting our constitution, I'm speaking from burial level. If you're in a burial society and you have a constitution, protect it, respect it. If you're an association, if you're a housing corporation, start respecting your constitutions and demand accountability from leaders. And I think the biggest tragedy that we have in Zimbabwe is we have a following and a citizenry which does not even understand the national constitution, let alone the party constitutions of the parties they purport to support. And plenty of people only started knowing that of the MDC constitution recently when the squabbles between Advocate Chamisa and Dr. Khupe started happening. That's when everyone started looking for the constitution, wanted to put in their input. But we are saying, if you're a member of a political party, have a copy of your constitution, hold your leaders to account. Where they are erring, put them back mugwara. So we need a citizenry that hold leaders to account. As the MDC-T led by Dr. Khupe, we want our followers to hold us to account, to demand accountability from us, to share their ideas with us, so that we build a strong party which represents the needs and the interests of the people.
Some will also say that Dr. Khupe was had already declared herself a presidential candidate because there were cars already branded Khupe for 2018. So was this not a Congress just to rubber stamp her into power? Was there any contestation for that position of president?
I think when people are going for a Congress, they nominate people. And the only person who was nominated by the 10 provinces was Dr. Khupe. And as of the branding of cars, when everyone is campaigning, they brand their cars. Even when aspiring MPs have got branded cars. So why does it become an issue that Dr. Khupe had already branded a car? Nelson Chamisa also branded his car before the NZ. Why does it become an issue when Dr. Khupe has done it?
I think the question was that maybe you could have waited until Congress.
She was advocating for the people's vote there at Congress, and that was her own way of campaigning. And she has the right to campaign in a way that she wanted, a manner that suits her.
The program is Late Night Politics, and I'm talking to Linda Masarira. She's one of the most recognizable voices in Zimbabwean politics. Some will say she's controversial, some say she is misunderstood, but she has been elevated to become the spokesperson of the MDC-T, which is led by Dr. Thokozani Khupe, following a congress which was held in Bulawayo over the weekend. And we are having a conversation, and as usual, she's fiery, but we will get through it. And the issue of the MDC-T led by Dr. Khupe, that it's just a regional party. You have no national reach. If you have rallies as compared to Nelson Chamisa, you hardly make the numbers and so forth. You are a small regional party. What do you say to that?
If it was a small regional party, I don't think we would have been having people from Manicaland in the standing committee, people from Harare in the standing committee, and people from other provinces in the standing committee. Our party is not a regional party, and that was seen. We had all 10 provinces that were present at the Congress. They were represented, people from Masvingo, from Mutare, and everywhere else. So those who are saying it's a regional party, they're entitled to their own opinion. What we understand is we're a national party which is speaking to national issues, and will continue speaking to national issues.
Which comes back to the issue, because I still want to discuss with you your elevation, that some are saying, how could you...
Wait, I'm answering you, and I want to answer you properly. I joined the MDC-T, and I am a member of the MDC-T. And I even stated that on my Facebook, on one of the Facebook posts on Facebook yesterday, that everyone who's claiming that I'm not a bona fide MDC-T member, let everyone produce their cards, take a picture of them, and post them on social media. I have got my first card, which I bought in 2000. My parents actually lost a lot because of my support for the MDC-T in 2000. They had shops burnt in Bindura. I have been a member of MDC-T since 2000. And I don't have to tell the world what I am doing, which party I follow, and whatever. I am entitled to my own opinion. And those who want to speak otherwise should come and argue and tell me that I'm not a member. And I'll produce my card, and then they will tell me that I'm not a member of the party.
So, in terms of the structures of the MDC-T, were you a member currently? Because I know that you were a member of the People's Democratic Party, initially led by BT, and then it split, and it went with the other faction which came out of the BT faction.
Yes, I left MDC-T in 2008 because I felt like it had not supported the people's vote. I joined Tendai BT, and we worked together for a while. And when they decided to have a split, I really didn't think it was imminent, and there wasn't sufficient conflict resolution. And I decided to stand as an independent candidate then. And for people to start making noise that why did I join Dr. Khupe, I've been also having negotiations with Advocate Chamisa to join the alliance. I've been having negotiations with a lot of parties who wanted me to join their party. And I have got the right at the end of the day to decide which party to join, which also believes and stands for the struggles that I stand for. I stand for the women's struggle. I stand for labor justice and social justice. I want to see the Zimbabwean economy revived. Those are the real issues that I stand for. And when we had a negotiation with Dr. Khupe, we're actually speaking the same language, and we had the same vision, and that is the reason why I decided to join her. And when I joined her, obviously I had to join the party. So when you say, how did I become elected? I'm not a party member. How would I? It really doesn't make sense at the end of the day, because people have expectations, right, that you're supposed to be joining a particular camp. But when that particular camp is not speaking to the issues that I stand for, how do you expect me to go there and to be influential when we do not subscribe to the same issues? I've raised these issues before, that the MDC alliance is not gender sensitive. How many women are in the MDC alliance? I speak to the issue of gender balance and gender parity, because I feel that women have been historically marginalized in Zimbabwe, and we want to amplify the voices of women. We want women to be occupying even those 50-50 gender representation in our boards. Go and look at the banking sector, look at the boards. You'll find 1 or 2 women. They are just there for tokenism. But we have to change that narrative. We've got very intelligent women in Zimbabwe who are moving and shaking things in other countries. But we do not want to incorporate them into our governance structures because of misogyny, because we don't want to believe that a woman can lead. But we are saying, let's look at the merit. Let's look at the capacities of these women. Why are we sidelining them? Because we only think that we are the men, we have to be in the forefront. Society evolves. Let us also evolve as a society. Let's evolve in our communities. I was very happy a couple of weeks ago when we had a women's meeting where we invited traditional chiefs to note that we now have a female traditional chief in Zimbabwe. They were making headway. We will get there sometime. But when we have women who are leading, who've got the capacity, let's embrace them and work with them.
Some will also talk about your failure to also reach common ground with Advocate Chamisa. What could have been the reason why, if you negotiated, why didn't you come to an understanding and join him? What went wrong in your negotiations with Advocate Chamisa?
I would say maybe we just didn't understand each other on certain issues. I mean, maybe to do with ideology and principle. And the MDC-T led by Advocate Chamisa is a tight and closed space where there are people who will not open up space for new leaders. They claim that place and they close it up and they say it is ours. But you know, like I've said earlier, we have to evolve. We have to open up spaces for the younger generation. It's not just about ageism or everything else, but the younger generation is coming up with new ideas, which the older generation do not have. But we have to meet each other at a convergence zone and say, when we get here, how are we plugging in with these ideas? Because it is actually a tragedy to let young people or young women just occupy the proportional representation seats. Women should also be allowed to run their own races, to campaign, to feel the heat of the campaign. A lot of women do not know that because they're told, we've got your 60 seats that we negotiated for you for PR, but that is not sufficient. We want women of merit, credible, who are capacitated, who can run their own campaigns, their own campaign teams, you know, and feel the heat of campaigning. But when we always relegate women to the PR and everything else, they will never know what it is to campaign, and they will always be looked as second class even in parliament. And I've had some women who are in parliament who went in proportional representation say sometimes when they want to move a motion, they're told you don't have a constituency. But it's time also for women to stand up and say, we are going to run, and to be resilient, to be tenacious and say, this is our space, we are going to occupy it without fear or favor. Because if you are not tenacious and if you are not resilient, you will never occupy these spaces. But we are saying men should also open up spaces for women to lead, give them, capacitate them, help them where they are weak, so that they also grow to be powerful leaders in our society.
For those who have just joined the program, it's Late Night Politics. It's coming to you from Bulawayo, where I am attending the ZITF. But on the sidelines of that, I thought I should have my political program right here in Bulawayo. And the topical issue of the week is that Madam President, MDC-T President Khupe held a congress, and she was elected as the president of the party. There is still a court case which is pending, which will clarify who takes the name, who takes the other issues to do with the party, because Advocate Nelson Chamisa is also saying that it's his party, and we continue to wait to see what will happen. But it is strange that it is happening a few months before an election. What will be Linda, let's be honest here, you are going to be accused of splitting the vote. Why are you not coming together for the sake of at least giving a challenge to ZANU-PF under the circumstances with history is replete with the issue of when Welshman Khupe split from Morgan Changirai, especially in Matabeleland, ZANU-PF gained a foothold. Are you not afraid of being accused of splitting the vote?
Like I said, politics evolve on a daily basis, and things might change. We cannot actually rubber stamp and say maybe we are going to go to the elections divided or everything. But the tenets of democracy subscribe to people of different ideologies making on their own groupings and everything else. And eventually, who knows, maybe we'll find common ground and agree. So politics evolves on a daily basis. We cannot say we are going to go to the elections divided. We do not know how politics will evolve next week. We should also understand that the political dynamics in Zimbabwe in this year are very dynamic. So we cannot just rubber stamp and say this is exactly what is going to be happening. We are not enemies with with Advocate Chamisa. We are not enemies with anyone in their political party. We still view them as our brothers and sisters, but we are just differing on opinion.
What is the game plan of the MDC-T led by Khupe as far as the elections are concerned? How are you going to approach it? Because people are saying that you don't have the crowds, you don't have the people. You might upset in Chamisa, in Matebeleland and so forth. What is the game plan?
Like you said, people are saying that is what they think. People actually thought that we wouldn't have the crowds at Stanley Square, but they were there. So people are allowed to think and say what they want to say. But they'll be shocked because we're actually having our primaries in the next 2 weeks. And they are actually going to be successful. So let people say what they want to say. We will just show them by actions and what we are doing that we actually have the people.
And in approaching the elections, how are you? What is the vision of the party?
The vision of the party is clear. We are speaking to labor justice. We are speaking to social justice. We are speaking to issues to do with devolution of power. Each province should run its own affairs so that there is development in those provinces. Look at all the provinces in Zimbabwe. We still have growth points which have never grown in Zimbabwe. They are still stagnant. When they were left, when they were opened or commissioned as growth point, they are still like that. But we are saying we need our provinces to grow. We need each province to run its own affairs and to ensure that they develop. Look at Bulawayo right now. All the industries are closed. They've been turned into churches. But if Bulawayo was running its own affairs, I think Bulawayo would have been still the industrial hub in Zimbabwe. But because of this one center of power, which was initiated by ZANU-PF, we have seen our provinces, actually some of them turning into ghost towns. But we are saying for our provinces to develop, they have to have their own budget and run their own affairs. So like these are the issues that we are speaking to. And most importantly, the issue to do with labor justice. We cannot have people going to work day in and day out and not being paid. We cannot have people being fired and not receiving their packages. We cannot have pensioners who get peanuts as a pension payout. We are speaking to the issues that are affecting people on a day-to-day basis. When we look into Harare, we need to solve the water crisis in Harare. We've got a cholera outbreak in Zimbabwe, in Harare. But we are saying, as the MDC-T led by Thokozani Khupe, we have to start dealing with the fundamentals which are affecting human development in Zimbabwe. If we do not deal with issues of sustainable human development, we can never get to a stage where we are going to be successfully growing the economy of this country, because the worker has to be satisfied to also be able to improve their workspace and their situation. But when we have a disgruntled worker, we've got a crisis. So we are really speaking into the day-to-day lives of the average Zimbabwean, empowering them and ensuring that they are happy, they can have a decent meal in their houses, have proper fresh water running out of their taps, and clinics that are well equipped and hospitals that are well equipped with nurses properly paid. I think those are the real issues that we're speaking to. People issues first, and then we grow the economy.
Okay, we will get back to the issues later on, but let's just also get a bit personal. The last time I talked to you, you were running for Harare Central as an independent MP. What is going to happen there?
What is going to happen is I'm going to put in my CV for the primaries, the MDC-T, and if I win, I'm going to be running under the MDC-T ticket. If I don't win, I will continue being the spokesperson of the party. I've been clear. My ultimate goal is not to be in parliament. My ultimate goal is to change the political culture in Zimbabwe, and I can do it from any other angle. I've been doing it as an activist, speaking my mind, and also ensuring that I preach a message that people understand, that will open up their minds to understand that we need a paradigm shift of mindsets to be able to hold leaders to account, which is critically important, and which I'll always speak about, that when you relegate your life into the hands of the politicians, you will suffer. You have to play an active role as a citizen. Ensure that you choose a leader that speaks to your issues. Choose a leader who respects you and who wants to represent you. Just don't vote for me because I'm under a certain political party ticket. Look at the candidate that you're going to vote for. Are they able to represent your issues at legislative aspect? When you're voting for your councillor, are they engaging? Do they know the issues that are affecting you in your ward and everything else? Look at the candidate who you're going to vote for, not the party that they're coming from. I think that is what is critically important.
Are you still going to run for Harare Central, or you are going to change the constituency? Because I heard that you from some online reports that you had abandoned Harare Central and you are saying you can go anywhere.
I never say that, and those who are doing those online reports should actually, I think, give us evidence on where I say that. I started working the Harare Central constituency in 2015 because I had interest in it, and I still have interest in it, and like I've highlighted, I'm going to be putting in my CV for the primaries for Harare Central.
Vamwaruti hanzi iyi project yeZanu PF project ya ED ndiye akatoreleasa Yvonne Masarira kubva kujere kuti auye azopinda ku MDC yekwa Khupe, funding yavo iri kubva kuZanu kuna ED. Where are you getting your funding?
You know, I think people overrate ZANU PF. ZANU PF has got its own problems right now to be dealing with. And, you know, one thing that surprises me about Zimbabweans is that anyone with a differing opinion is labeled as an ZANU-PF person. I remember in 2005 when Washington Ncube left MDC, he was called the CIO, he was called the ZANU agent, he was called all sorts of names. But when he joined the alliance, everyone was ululating. Tendai BT, when he left with everyone, he left with was called the ZANU project, the ZANU PF plant, CIO, and a whole lot of things. When he came and joined the alliance, everyone in the MDC was crouching for pictures with the very same person. I've been called the same over the years. She's a ZANU person, she's, you know, and a whole lot of things. We have to be tolerant of divergent views as a nation. We will never grow when we want to label everyone ZANU PF. ZANU PF has got its own issues. He has got his own struggles. But when people are committed to what they are doing, they look for funds and they make things happen. Advocate Chamisa in the party that he leads were saying they cannot run a Congress because they don't have money. But they received 1.8 million for political party funding. Why didn't they run the Congress? They have got the money, and they've got a 20% which is set aside for the president, which means if we calculate it's about 360,000, which is in Advocate Chamisa's pocket. So, you know, starting to ask these things that people, where are they getting the money? Funds are looked for when it's a political party. And Dr. Khupe looked for funds and she found them and the Congress was done. So trying to label people as ZANU PF and all that, I think it's too archaic and myopic. We have to grow and mature as Zimbabweans and tolerate divergent views. At the end of the day, what we are all fighting for is to remove ZANU PF from power. And that is what is critically important. We can fight ZANU PF from our different angles and converge when needs be. And that is what is critically important.
But in terms of funding to sustain a campaign, do you have funds to do that, or will the campaign will just be stillborn and underfunded?
Wait and see. Wait and see. One thing that people don't appreciate is the world evolved a long time before us. And everywhere where there is a clear gender balance in structures, funds will come. Because the world is speaking to gender equality. And MDC-T, led by Dr. Khupe, is the first party in Africa which has got a standing committee with 50-50 gender representation. Our standing committee has got 7 women and 7 men. So we are done. We can go to all those funders who will speak particularly to issues to do with gender equality, and we see ourselves going in the right direction.
Maybe we are not understanding. I think the Zimbabweans generally, you touched on it a bit, that what is wrong with our perception of politics? Is it about leadership? Why do we not find it hard to accept political parties, for example, led by Thokozani Khupe or so forth? Why do we always have these personalities that we all converge around and say, yeah, chete, chete? Whilst, how do you break through that to also create space for yourself to say, look, Zimbabweans, let's focus on issues, let's not focus on personalities? How do you intend to break through that? Because I know that even as we go towards elections, it will be about ED, it will be about Chamisa, and some other candidates will be reduced to the periphery. Even if I know that Nkosana Moyo has got brilliant ideas, but people always make fun of him. What do we look for in our candidates?
You know, Zimbabweans have tried to divorce themselves from politics for a very long time, which I find to be one of the factors that has led Zimbabwe to be in the state it is in right now. Zimbabweans have just stood on the sidelines and watched and say, no, politics is for politicians. And we're still trying to change that narrative. Politics is for every Zimbabwean, because politics determines the quality of your lifestyle, determines the quality of your job, the quality of your hospitals and everything else. So every Zimbabwean has to plug in and actually ensure that they choose a capable leader. We also have to evolve mentally. We've got very intelligent people, and sometimes I wonder what is wrong with our intelligence. With our intelligence, we've got DSTV. We watch elections from other countries. We watch presidential debates, and here we have the Mnangagwa saying he will not go for a presidential debate. Why does he refuse to go for a presidential debate? If he refuses to go for a presidential debate, people should not vote for him, because people have to know what he's standing for. We have to change our attitude, especially to do with elections and candidates. Vote for a candidate who's speaking to your issues, who advance your life and ensure that you are actually living in a society where there is economic freedom. Right now, Zimbabweans are in economic bondage. So Zimbabweans have to change their mindsets and start looking into issues that are affecting them, and which rightful candidate is speaking to their issues, not a personality. People were voting for Mugabe since 1980, Mugabe the personality, which actually ran down this country. And Emmerson Mnangagwa has been Mugabe's right-hand man since 1980. What new things is he going to bring into Zimbabwe right now? He was also part of the people who ran down this country to be in the state that it is in right now. So we are saying, let's look for a candidate who speaks to issues, not fantasies or dreams. That is some of them which are unachievable. But let's look at our day-to-day lives and how they can be transformed. Because at the end of the day, all the issues that we're facing in this country are political.
When you are facing ED, you are looking at someone who's talking of a reformist agenda, and he seems to have struck a right chord with the business community, with the international community, and people are saying, look, let's give him a chance. How do you counter that after so many years of saying Mugabe must go?
Which chance does he want to be given? Because for me, everything I've seen when he got back into power, he's just an isophomic mimicry of Robert Gabriel Mugabe. He's doing the same things that Robert Mugabe did, except the only thing that is not doing that Mugabe did is imprisoning activists. But for me, he's spending money on a daily basis on useless things, yet we've got nurses who are on strike, who are supposed to be properly remunerated, and he's really not speaking to their issue. We also look at the way that he's traveling with his family and friends and abusing taxpayers' funds. That is exactly the same thing that Mugabe used to do. For me, when I look at what Emmerson Mnangagwa is doing, he's window dressing things so that you think that he's really working on the ground. But what really has changed in Zimbabwe right now? I haven't seen even anything that has changed on the economic front. He still speaks of we're having talks, but by now I think we should be seeing some of these things that he is saying manifesting, and we're not seeing that as a nation.
But you see, the problem now comes because that could have been a pressure point to put on ZANU-PF, but the message or the issue that is coming out from the opposition are the squabbles. And with 2 months or 3 months to go to elections, the most prominent thing that is coming out of the opposition camp are the squabbles. And how are you going to deviate the message or to deflect the message from all the squabbles? Because you are going to go to court, and in another few weeks another court case, and people forget about what you stand for and they only see the squabbles.
You know, I think earlier on in this interview I stated the issue that MDC-T led by Dr. Khupe is not going to be spending time fighting with people on personalities and everything else. One of the tragedies that we have had as opposition over the years is of taking our fights to social media. I have it on good authority that there are a lot of squabbles also happening in ZANU-PF, where Chiwenga wants to accept power. But ZANU-PF is very smart. They don't do their squabbles on social media. And it is very primitive for people to be taking their squabbles to social media. It only exposes how they are not prepared to be the next government. And MDC-T, led by Dr. Khupe, we're not going to be fighting with anyone, and we don't have time to be washing our dirty linen in public. Those who want to be washing their dirty linen in public, attacking people and calling them names on social media, they can go ahead. MDC-T, led by Dr. Khupe, is a principled party, a party with values, a party of love, which is actually speaking to building and unity in Zimbabwe, love in our country, to speak with one voice, and they have one shared common vision. We do not have time to be insulting personalities, to be fighting petty fights. We are committed to driving Zimbabwe to be the best that it can be, and it can be done when we tolerate each other in our divergent views and focus and aim on rebuilding Zimbabwe. That is what we need, and that is what is critically important, and that is what we are going to be focusing on. We do not have time to be fighting personalities. We are not going to be fighting any personality. We want to speak to issues and converge at a level of ideas, and we are willing to converge at a level of ideas with any other political player that will rebuild Zimbabwe, our economy, and ensure sustainable human development.
As we go towards the end of the program, there are some who are saying that within the Advocate Chamisa camp, there are some who want to come to Dr. Khupe, but they are waiting for the court case. What is your thought on that? Do you still have people left in Advocate Chamisa's camp who want to cross over?
Plenty of them. If I open my WhatsApp for you, you'll be shocked. People asking, how do we come in? Who do we talk to? You know, and a lot of people are interested in this party. A lot of people are interested, and I actually feel sorry for Advocate Chamisa's party, because I think one day they're going to wake up and find that they are only left with the leadership, maybe. But some in the leadership are actually even considering crossing the ground. So at the end of the day, that's politics.
What could be the reason that when they talk to you on WhatsApp why they want to come over?
Some are disgruntled about the primaries, where they actually thought that they were actually going to make it. Some are complaining about their CVs being removed, where they had put in their CVs. There are a lot of reasons. So at the end of the day, they have to put their house in order if they want to maintain people. But I'll tell you, I've never had an influx of messages on WhatsApp like I've been having since Saturday, of people asking how they can plug in, how they can join, and a whole lot of other things. So that is what is happening. That is politics. It's a game of numbers, a game of thrones, if you want to call it. The best people win, the best people have numbers, and there are no permanent friends or enemies in politics. They're just permanent interests.
Linda, final words as we close the program.
Final words is, let's unite as Zimbabweans. We can unite with differing opinions. Let's foster a culture of tolerance. Let's stop these derogatory statements on people who've got differing opinions. We are better than that, Zimbabweans. We don't have to insult people for their own opinions which differ from yours, but we can also work together with differing opinions. What is important is rebuilding Zimbabwe, reclaiming Zimbabwe from ZANU-PF and the military junta, and ensuring that we work together as a team to rebuild our country in our differing opinions.
This has been Late Night Politics from Bulawayo, where I have been talking to the newly elected MDC-T spokesperson, Linda Masarira. She is with Dr. Thokozani Khupe. They held a congress over the weekend, and they are upbeat that they can upset the apple cart. And we will see what will happen, will unfold in the coming months, as they also are contesting. Is she contesting for presidential candidate, yes, or she'll be running as under a coalition?
She is contesting as the presidential candidate.
So we can only wish them the best. In Zimbabwe, we are not enemies, even if you differ in thought and in practice. We are all Zimbabweans, and that is at the end of the day what we only have. Stop the violence, stop the insults, stop the body shaming, stop the misogyny, and just focus on the politics of issues and policies, and we will see where we'll get there. My name is George Musumba. Catch me again next Monday for another edition of Late Night Politics. I am in Bulawayo and I'm enjoying myself. Come to the ZITF on Tuesday and join me as we go around the stands and see what Zimbabwe has to offer business-wise. But in politics, it's good night for tonight, and catch me again next week.
You've been listening to Late Night Politics on StarFM, taking an in-depth look at the Zimbabwean political scene. Join us again next week, Monday, same time on StarFM.